Shalom Aleichem Rabotzai. We are continuing in the seventh and final parak of Demai in the Mishnah Yomi with Mishnah Dalet. Halokeach yain mibein kutim. Somebody buys wine from the kutim. Farshim explained it's Erev Shabbos, and it's about to be Shabbos. So what's he doing near the kutim? His donkey broke down on the way back to Yerushalayim near Samaria. Remember, the kutim are the Samaritans. That's why we say good Samaritans. Most of them were really quite bad. But the time of history the Mishnah is referring to is when we knew they had converted because they were being attacked by lions after being imported by Sencheriv. But the sages did not yet know that the Kutim were still engaged in Avodah Zarah. They had a golden dove. So after we found their golden dove and their temple up there in Samaria, we said, listen, these guys aren't even Jewish. They were never sincere. They were always keeping their Avodah Zarah, but this is well before that time when the Kutim were still keeping mitzvahs. They still had a quasi-status like Jews, but they were sometimes biblical literalists and did not do all the mitzvahs. Some mitzvahs they did and some they didn't, so you had to really know what's going on with your Kutim to use their produce and deal with them. So here he's buying wine from the Kutim, and unlike from an Am Haaretz, the Kutim were very careful and meticulous in their tithing, but only for themselves, not for what they sold to other people. So their shtick was, when we say lifnei iver lo titen michshol, they took that pasuk literally. So the Kutim held that it was asur d'oraisa to put a rock or a log in front of a blind man. They did not have any drasha on that pasuk at all, that maybe that pasuk also implies you can't do things that trick people or deceive people, like such as selling untithed produce. Of course, the end of that pasuk is v'yiretem elokecha, ani Hashem. So they didn't think the end of that pasuk was important. The end of that pasuk implies if you put a stumbling block before the blind, even if it's not obvious, it's not a literal stick or a rock or a stumble or a pit, but it's something deceiving. Hashem's going to know about it. That's the seifa of the pasuk. They didn't really hold by that. So we say they didn't hold by Yiras Hashem. They didn't hold by fearing Hashem. So they were willing to sell untithed produce. So if you bought from the Kutim some wine, you need to assume it is not Demai. It's not Safek. It's Vadai Tevel. So Lokeach yain mi ben Kutim ve'omer shnei lugim sheniati lahafrish. The two lug I'm going to separate in the future. Hare hen truma. They are truma. Remember, from an Am Haaretz, the Demai, you don't take truma because the Am Haaretz were careful to always take truma. It has a chi of misa. But here it's vadai tevel. It's from a kuti. He doesn't hold by lifnei iver in terms of selling untithed produce. So you have to separate the truma. And he's saying what I'm going to in the future separate. I'm going to leave over 2 log. That's going to be the truma. So we see he bought 100 log of wine. It's going to be a good Shabbos, supposed to say. 100 log of wine is 600 eggs volume of wine. That's quite a bit of wine if he's by himself or just with his family. Or maybe they just picked 100. It's a nice round number and it's easy to calculate. Basara Meiser. So he takes 2%. 2 log is Truma. 10 log is Meiser. Tisha Meiser Sheni. And 9 are going to be Meiser Sheni. Mechel v'shote. He can be mecholel the meiser sheni on a coin like we had yesterday, and drink. Now it's interesting. So he's fixing it up entirely. It's very interesting. Mechel, the Bartenura also points out, it's also a lashon of meziga, of mixing. So even after he's designated, listen, I'm going to separate, the bottom of the barrel. He's not even saying the bottom of the barrel. He's saying 2 log is truma and 10 log is meiser. He could even mix it up because they used to do meziga. Their wine was very strong. They used to mix it with water. Maybe he's stirring the barrel. So Barnur says if he's stirring the barrel, that's Rabbi Meir's shita. Rabbi Meir holds there's a breira even deraisa. So even the tithes deraisa level, because this is vadai tevel that he's fixing up, Rabbi Meir allows breira to work there. So even if he stirred it all together, then whatever's left over, I'm assuming this guy has 600 eggs worth of wine. I'm assuming he's going to leave some over after Shabbos to tithe. He has to, but he'd probably leave over quite a bit, God willing. We'll see. And if there's breira deraisa, Rabbi Meir allows you to even stir it and leave over the bottom. The Rabbanan hold there's a breira derabanan on items that are derabanan, like Demai. We allow breira, as we've seen in various Mishnayos and Demai, but on a deraisa, no. So he says that could be Rabbi Meir. He says halacha is not like Rabbi Meir. We hold all over Shas that Breira works for Dirabanans and not for Diraisas. But it's an interesting note that he makes, that the Rav makes in the Parish on the Mishnah here, about stirring the wine bought from the kutim if the donkey broke down in Samaria. Mishnah Hey, Hayulo Ta'anim Shel Tevel B'toch Beso. He has Ta'anim, he has figs that are Tevel. They have to be fixed up. Vahu B'beis Medrash Abasode. He's out in the field, he's out in the Beis Medrash, and it's just like the previous Mishnah, it's about to be Shabbos. Shabbos is coming. And he's not sure he's going to get home in time to physically separate the tithes. So the Omer, he's allowed to say, Shtei Ta'anim Shaniati Lahafish, the 2 figs that I will in the future separate out physically, Hareza Truma. Remember, this is Tevel Deraisa, not Demai, so he has to take the Truma, the 2%. For the Kohanim, the Eser, the next 10, Meiser Rishon. That's going to be the Meiser Rishon. And within that, of course, is the Trumas Meiser that he'll separate later and add to the Truma. The Taisha, and the next 9, Meiser Sheni. That will be the Meiser Sheni. So he can stipulate that he's going to separate the tithes, since he might not make it home in time to physically separate them before Shabbos begins, because we cannot tithe on Shabbos. Hayu Demai, Omer, if it's Demai produce that someone had purchased from Amaretz, it's sitting in his house, needs to be fixed before Shabbos. Omer Masha Niati Lahafrish, what I'm going to separate, Hare Hu Meiser. I'm going to start separating Meiser, Shar Meiser Samachlo. We've seen this wording by fixing up Demai. So basically he's separating 1%, and then another 9%. V'zeisha asiti meiser, and this 1%, this first amount I made meiser, so he trumas meiser. That's the trumas meiser, and that's the amount he's actually going to separate from the demai. It's trumas meiser alov, meiser sheni, b'tzvada b'dromo. The meiser sheni is another 10% on the north side, the south side, wherever it is. Mechula l'mayos. I can be mechalo this even mentally on a silver coin I have, and then that silver coin will have kedusha of meiser sheni. We'll take it to Yerushalayim and we'll buy that. But this is a great Mishnah for seeing the distinction between separating out the tithes on Truma Deraisa, which needs Tevel, and on Demai, which you don't have to take Tevel because the Amarts did, but you do have to separate out the Trumas Meiser. Shkoyach Rabosai.